right. Caller number 5, 499-1045. We're going to get a lot of calls in here. Maximize the amount of calls for your chance to win. The Follow a Pro, the Zurich Classic. Nothing Musso loves more than answering the phone, so hit him long and hit him hard. It's also a golf thing.
I'd like to see if Musso actually takes 5 phone calls or if he just takes the first one.
He actually does take the 5.
He does.
You just never know.
Back in the day when they took calls, first caller, your caller 5, congratulations. Hold tight, get back to programming. What? Absolutely.
No integrity.
I always suspected that.
Hey,
It's like,
Musso,
why would
could you keep it down?
Caller number 9, that was like the one in Shreveport. It's like, why would you take 9 calls? Just take the second one.
What?
And just get
Congratulations.
Oh, man. What's going on
Hunt
here?
Palmer's in with us every Friday here on Off the Bench. Give me one basketball take before we get into the baseball weekend. It seems like things are trending in the direction for a sit-down between the university and Wade.
Yeah, it looks like some communication is in the near future, which is good. Obviously, I think a lot of people want Will Wade to be the basketball coach at LSU. I have no information, so I saw him play well on the court, so I'd like him to be around because that was fun to watch. But in any event, I'd like some communication. I'd like something to happen because when you sit in limbo while everybody else is hiring coaches and everybody else is out recruiting and you're doing neither, it's not great for the program.
Did you expect Naz Reid and Tremont Waters to leave?
I did. I think Naz is one of those guys who showed up and knew that it was 1 year and I'm out, and he played well for a year and left. And I said it on Hester's show yesterday. Expectation is the wrong word because they don't owe me as a fan anything. They're players, but I think it's reasonable to expect, even if someone has eyes on professional sports and any sport that they play, that while they're at LSU, they play as hard as they can and they're part of the team. And that doesn't happen every time, but it did with Naz. He played exceptionally hard. He played very well. He was engaged when he was on the floor. He was engaged when he was in foul trouble. He gave everything he had for that team in that run. And then obviously Tremont, 2 years and just an unbelievable, the best point guard LSU's had, since the early '80s with Howard Carter. I mean, he was unbelievable, and he had the moments to back it up. Beat Michigan by himself last year, which was a national finalist. He threw in 2 shots against A&M and a magical deal there. The buzzer beater to send it to overtime against Florida this year. The buzzer beater to win the second round game. All-dimensional All-American. One of the best players I've seen at LSU, and he's not going to get any taller, so time to see what you can do in the pro ranks.
Yeah. Game transitions to the league?
I think there's a spot for him. I mean, to sit here and go, well, he's not going to be able to guard Russell Westbrook and James Harden, like no one guards them, so that doesn't really matter, but I think he'll have some struggles on defense. I mean, even guys like John Wall and some of the explosive point guards in the league just have an athleticism and height advantage on him, but He's always been the smallest guy on the floor, and he's always been awesome at that. And he'll have to adjust a little bit in terms of how he finishes around the rim and whatnot. But the NBA is a space league, and he's awesome in space. So I think he'll have to adjust like he did this year when he turned the ball over a ton early on and figured it out and cut his turnovers down at the end because he figured out how to play with all these toys around him. He'll figure it out.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. Let's move on to some baseball. Hunt, as LSU in a big series against Texas A&M, SEC West, 1v2 going up against each other. Surface level feelings about this weekend.
Nervous that their best 2 arms are left-handed because of what Zach Thompson from Kentucky did in kind of shutting down LSU. Now Hess outdueled him. They won 1-0. Then you turn back around last week and Ethan Small, an elite left-hander, 10 strikeouts in 5 innings, and LSU really looked overmatched after Cabrera's homer. So while the stats would suggest that LSU's fine against lefties, the really good ones they face in the SEC on the weekend, those guys have kind of locked them up. So I'm not really worried about what they do against Holy Cross's lefty. They brought him out of the bullpen, like whatever. The really good lefties they've seen, they have not swung the bat exceptionally well against, and that's because they're left-handed dominant lineup, and the right-handed bats are Mathis and Hughes and Broussard and obviously Watson.
Not that.
So that concerns me, but A&M's bats are not what Georgia's or Mississippi State's are. Plus, they're a little banged up. I mean, Shoemake's awesome at shortstop. He's not a very good defender, but he's a really good bat. And then we'll see. They got 3 guys that were hurt last week that didn't play very much, got bone bruises in the feet. And so we'll see. I can't find an injury report because everyone was talking about Buzz Williams in College Station yesterday. So I don't know exactly what kind of lineup they're going to bring, but it's not as dynamic. LSU needs to pitch it really well this weekend.
pep rally for Williams
They
yesterday.
did. Had the red carpet out there on the runway and what
we know how
all the
they're-
T-shirts on the kids saying the buzz is back.
Whatever. I love hating them. I hate Texas A&M.
Did he rock boots the same way Jimbo did?
sure he did.
Boots and the horse.
He's a Texas native.
I know he said. I know
okay.
he said
This is-
howdy
yeah.
when he at the beginning.
This is he's just going
He's
back to the fold.
member of the
I hate all
cult
of Texas, so I can get down on the A&M hate. Speaking of Shoemake, batting .442 in conference right now, and really that's what's weird about this A&M team, Hunt. When you look out of conference, they're not the most intimidating. Pitching stats are made really good, but when you look at just conference only numbers, this is an A&M team that is near the top in almost every statistical category. The most impressive, 114 strikeouts. Mississippi State, after 42 last week, is at 100. In third place is Georgia at 90. So it's like at a way high rate. How worried are you about the LSU lineup when it comes to just getting put out swinging?
Yeah, I am. I mean, John Doxakis is really good. He's lanky left-hander. He's been there a few years, and LSU's seen him a couple times, but he's got a good breaking ball, and he throws hard, and his command is exceptional. And then you'll see Lacey, whose stuff might even be better on Saturday. He's not as – I mean, he's only his first year in the rotation, but he's going to be a big-time draft pick when he comes out as well. Another guy who throws hard from the left side. Those guys are hard to find in college baseball, and A&M's got two of them at the front of the rotation. LSU's got to find a way to put the ball in play. Now, it's obviously last week Mississippi State struck a ton of guys out, but LSU hit the ball really well, and that kind of goes into the narrative of baseball that most people don't care if you strike out as long as you hit some doubles and hit some home runs and outs and out. I don't tend to subscribe to that. I'd like to put the ball in play, especially in college, and make guys make plays, move runners, all that kind of stuff. But I'm not going to go nuts on the strikeouts from last week because they scored a ton of runs in games 2 and 3.
And then what about CJ Willis coming on in that Mississippi State series, now getting some extended playing time? Cabrera kind of allowing them to not have to make a decision here immediately. Is CJ Willis, do you think he ends up winning that first base job?
I think he's going to be in the mix. Throughout the course of a 56-game schedule, you've got to have a couple of guys give you a spark, whether that's in the lineup or on the mound. I mean, obviously Chris Reid was the first kind of spark into this team, and he's played exceptionally well, and CJ Willis has given that to him a little bit. You hope maybe the next guy is Marceau or Costello or Hill down the line that kind of gives you a little energy. And, this is not like a fluke. Like, CJ Willis was a serious draft risk when he was a junior in high school. And then he got hurt. He tore his labrum and he couldn't play defense, and they passed on him in the really early rounds. He took some phone calls, but he's got a ton of tools. He's athletic. The swing is very good. He's always been a really good hitter. So this is not some guy they found off the scrap heap. This was a key piece to their signing class, and so he didn't have he couldn't do a ton in the fall, couldn't play defense, but he swung the bat a little bit, but he was behind just because he's coming back from that injury. So he's behind Beloso and even Bianco and Dugas, but now he's kind of caught up, and I like his swing. I like him in there.
Outside the Box podcast, co-host Hunt Palmer every Friday here with us on Off the Bench. One more before we close out this segment, bringing back to close out hour number 1. The Daniel Cabrera situation, out for the week and now missing the weekend. What's the cause of concern here?
I mean, the cause is the tendonitis, and the concern for me is great because it's just not going to go away. It's just going to be a pain tolerance deal for him, and I was told that it got so bad in Starkville that he had to go Maneri. He's been dealing with it since Christmas. He had to go to Maneri last week in Starkville after he struck out a few times and goes, I can't really hold the bat. Like, all right, we'll sit. So they've given him some treatment, and he's going to have to rest. I think you're going to see a very light midweek workload for him the rest of the way. We just don't need you in there against Nichols on a Tuesday. We're going to get somebody else in at bat, just sit there and put some ice on it, and they'll continue to treat it. And it's just going to be a matter of how much he can tolerate the pain. And if he has to sit a Sunday because he's played the first 2 days and he's got to sit, and he's got to, but he's going to try. It's just going to be a pain tolerance deal.
More on the matchup between LSU and Texas A&M over at the Box. Skip Bertman Field starting today. We'll also get a point from Hunt on the LSU spring game tomorrow inside Tiger Stadium. What's jumped out to him over the last 15 practices from the football program? Hunt Palmer on this Friday, closing out on a free beer Friday of hour number 1 off the bench. Give me a take on LSU football here over the last 15 practices. Everybody's kind of enamored by Joe Brady on the offensive side. Is that where you kind of start?
We're right on schedule with my annual football emotion thing.
Yeah,
it's spring football is just unbelievable. Every spring, it's okay. This guy's gained 15 pounds. This guy's killing it in the weight room. This new coach is doing this. Everything's awesome.
Yep.
It's just a propaganda machine.
Austin Deculus is going to be an All-American.
It's not an LSU thing. It's a nationwide thing, and it starts in January. Where if you won your bowl game, you feel like the next year's the year. If you lost, you have to fire the coach. and the signing class comes in, and the new coach comes in, and then the spring practice reports come out, and everybody starts feeling really good about themselves. And that's the case this time. I'll say this. I went out there one time, and it's the drills they were doing are not something that I've seen over the last 10 years. It's 100% tempo, all run pass option. It just looks different. And I don't know if it's going to be good. I don't know if it's going to be bad. I don't know if it's going to be detrimental to the defense. I don't know if they're going to be top 5 in the SEC in scoring, but it looks a little bit different. And I think that is probably something that we can take to heart. We've heard it for years. It looks different to me now.
You can accuse me of being a part of the propaganda machine. I think it's going to be very good. I think Jamar Chase is going to put up crazy stats. I think Burrow is as well.
Quick, huh? Just 13 practices, they've already gotten to you?
I firmly believe that this is going to be the offensive sea change that fans have been waiting for. I mean, look, that's fine. We'll wait and see. You ain't going to see it tomorrow. You ain't going to see anything tomorrow. But it's coming in the fall, and I think fans are going to be very, very pleasantly surprised.
I'm making fun of you, but I believe you.
Yeah, exactly.
I really do. I know. I'm on the same page as he is.
I trust the quarterback. I think they're playing. I mean, when Terrace Marshall is your third option, and D. Anderson, I think, is your fourth option.
Yeah,
I mean,
pretty good.
That's pretty good. And you think that the freshman running backs will figure it out. Clyde can hold the rope for the early part. I just if I knew more about the offensive line, I would really feel better about it.
So that is a big red flag. But what's making me feel better about that is the philosophical change taking place.
Yeah.
The whole problem was last year, I yelled about it a million times, they were not helping the offensive line with their strategies, with the max protect. It was counterintuitive. It was not helping them. It was making things worse. And there are numbers that back this up. Like passer ratings rise when you go to a more spread out attack. I think now the offensive line, look, there's going to be improvement there. Like I think Sadiq Charles has a pretty big bounce back year. But even outside of their improvement, the change in the offensive scheme is going to help them maybe more than anything. An offensive lineman's best friend is getting rid of the ball. Is a quarterback that gets rid of the ball. Yeah, and when you don't have that, you struggle. Like, actually, last year's O-line was the worst since 2009, which is one that I was a part of. And that year, while we weren't the best, like we certainly weren't the best, like last year's O-line, Jordan Jefferson was a young starter as well at the time. This was coming off the pick 6 year. So he was terrified of making mistakes because that was going to get him benched. So it led to him holding on to the ball, which led to the worst pass blocking stats that we had in years. So it's not hard to do the math and see how last year came about.
To add on to that, I mean, this is not like inside sources. This is during the media viewing session of practice. Jordy, you've been going out there forever. How many times have you seen them run a 4 to 5 wide receivers, no defenses in front of them, but run the play dry and then immediately get to the line and do it again? And they ran 7 plays in a row. I mean, I've never seen them do that.
Right. It looks different. I will absolutely, and I've admitted that on the practice reports, and I think that it looks so different that it won't be that point like if something bad happens where they recoil, and they go back to like Orgeron did with Canada in the Troy game. I mean, just stop it. This is what we're doing. Line up and run at them. I mean, I think that was more of a personality clash and more of a personal clash between those two guys. And I think this is what he's been looking for offensively. Yep. It's a little different. And like T-Bob said, the ball comes out of the quarterback's hand very quick. Just the way they line up.
It's the way
they line up as far as like the being close to the ball, being close to the line of scrimmage. They're not spread 18 yards out where they're running 7-step drops and throwing from a hash mark to the sideline 35 yards in the air. I just think that timing, compact, concise routes, tempo, pace, all that stuff is point of emphasis. And T, I don't think that they can hide that tomorrow. Like you won't be seeing scheme, game planning, but like the tempo, the pace, the organization, I think you will see that.
Yeah, what I want to see is what do they do formationally? Because if they come out under center, then they're hiding things because this is not going to be an under center team.
I mean, I was cracking up at practice the other day. Do y'all remember the touchdown before the kick 6 in the Auburn game when Nick Marshall did the run pass option, then he ran to his left, almost to the line of scrimmage, stopped and threw it to the wide open guy down the field, and he took off. It's like a 55-yard touchdown. LSU ran that as a drill for like 5 minutes the other day. I was like, wait, what is going on?
It's crazy, man. And look, we got an anonymous user inside the huddle asking for the status of Ed Ingram, and I don't know his status of whether he'll play or not. I do know this. He's around the program, and he's still on the roster. And if you talk to people, they won't tell you anything on the record, but off the record, there's a lot of people that feel like he could be reinstated to the program. And some of those questions that you have about the offensive line can be answered overnight with Ed Ingram being accessible to playing. Now, look, you have to account that he was out of football for a year. But 2 years ago, when he was on the offensive line as a true freshman, he was the best on the unit. And when you see him physically just hovering around practice, he looks like physically how he would have transformed from a sophomore to a junior season. I mean, he looks football ready. What will he look like when he throws the pads on and gets out there? I can't answer that. But if he steps back into the fold and you've got Damian Lewis, Lloyd Cushenberry, and Ed Ingram as the three of the interior of your offensive line, now you're talking.
Yeah. I'll tell you another thing I really liked. It's kind of a cap to it, and this is not new. I think he's been really doing this the whole time, but I liked that Ed Orgeron was exclusively working with the pass rush and defensive linemen, not like CEO checking outlet. Yeah, just go work with those guys. Like, you're really good at that.
Hunt, how many does LSU take off A&M this weekend?
2.
Hey, there we go.
At Hunt Palmer 88, Outside the Box podcast at 1045ESPN.com every Friday with us. Enjoy the weekend. Hour 2 next.